What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. Happy 4th of July, happy America Day, happy Independence Day. Today is July 4th, and for today, we're only going to cover one comic, but I wanted to make it something that really represented America. What better than the brand new issue of Captain America, issue number 1, by Chip Zdarsky. And if I'm going to be honest, I thought this was going to be your typical run-of-the-mill Captain America story. But this actually, it dang near brought me to tears. That's how good this comic was. Dare I say, this may be my comic of the year. We're only halfway through the year, but it might be my comic of the year. Because this story, alongside Steve Rogers, we're introduced to a new modern-day Captain America. A Captain America that is an Iraq war veteran. One that stood up for his country in the time of need. When war fell upon them, the urge to serve, it continued to call him. Little did he know that this calling would lead him to the shield. It would lead him down the footsteps of Steve Rogers. Make sure you guys stick around to the end because I really want to dive into how impactful I think this comic is, especially as an Army infantry veteran of the Iraq War myself. This is a big deal. This comic is a big deal to me, but I hope you guys enjoy it. With that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, we're picking up in New York City. We pick up on the day that those towers fell. And on that day, we had a young David. Red hair and glasses. Small, feeble, not much muscle on his body. Seeing death on this massive scale. On this day, it brought a terrible thought to his mind. First and foremost, are we worth saving? And if we are, am I willing to become the thing I hate to save us all? Am I willing to become a killer? This is what picks us up with Steve Rogers. And this is early day Captain America, freshly out of being frozen. So he really hasn't joined the Avengers. He really hasn't made his name known in the world yet. The only thing that's known about him is his exploits from World War II. So when Steve shows up on scene to help an officer, the cop is performing life-saving CPR and things of that nature. Captain America, he goes chasing after the gunman, a single lone shooter, but one that seems to be trained. He knows how to ride and fire his gun at the same time, and Captain America knows that he's got to get the upper hand here. Using his shield, he knocks this bike down to the ground, but as the man falls, we see the explosives strapped to his body, and Captain America, he can't help but think, like, does God even exist in this new world? You gotta remember, he's from World War II. Christianity was very strong, it was thriving. Most households believed in some kind of form of Christianity. And so seeing a world that is more chaotic, a world that's more violent, it is more fast-paced, a godly man jumping time, he's most definitely going to question if God still exists, at least in the heart of men. But we see that this gunman, he's headed to the United Nations building. The guards are able to hold him off, holding him at gunpoint. Captain America comes in and he tries to de-escalate the situation. He knows this guy's military. He can read him like a book. This guy was in the army. He was a second lieutenant. He did 2 tours overseas. And when he's referencing the war, he's talking about what he says the Gulf War. Now, most people, at least if you're military, you think of the Gulf War as the 1991 assault on Saddam Hussein on Iraq during the whole Kuwaiti incident. But broadly and by civilian terms, the Iraq War, the Afghanistan wars can be referred to as the Gulf Wars. And that's the context that is being used in throughout this story, as we'll see as we get to the end of the story. But Captain America introducing himself, saying that he was also military, that he was a captain, part of the Commandos infantry in World War II. We see that this second lieutenant, he's struggling. The truth is, he feels like nobody cares. People go on living their lives every day, while everybody that he knows, they've died. They died for nothing. And that's when Cap tells him that whatever you think you're going through, whatever you're thinking that you're gonna accomplish here is not the way, because death only equals more death. And so Cap asks him to stand down, the second lieutenant putting it down. And that's when Iron Man shows up to shut off the device. With our second lieutenant being put into handcuffs, we have Iron Man and Captain America that have a conversation. You know, Cap's relatively new to the world, and so the idea of a United Nations, this is a whole new concept to him. The idea is it's designed to stop future world wars. And Cap knows this probably isn't as straightforward as it may seem, but it does appear that the world's at least tried. They tried to do something here, regardless if it works or not. But that soldier, that second lieutenant, he felt abandoned. He felt abandoned by America. That's when Iron Man, he really extends the invitation of joining the Avengers. But Captain's not ready for that yet. He already belongs to an organization, and he knows that it's been decades. He's been in that ice for quite some time, but he's a soldier. He belongs to the army, and it's damn about time that he returned to base. This is what picks us up with young David. After the events of 9/11, he went to the recruiting office. He went there and he never left. He came every single day. They told him time and time again, he can't join. Persistent asthma, poor vision, and frankly, it looks like he could be broken like a twig, being a whopping 5 foot 4 inches. David Colton would never join the military. At least that's what this recruiter told him. But a willingness to serve and a desire, a fortitude to not give up. Eventually, somebody took pity on him, taking us over to Steve Rogers. Steve, he walked himself right into the Pentagon, and so far they've been running tests. By all accounts, he is the perfect human specimen. He has all the markings of the super soldier experiments from the 1940s. With the Avengers really unfreezing him, they found him in the ice. They thawed his butt out. They brought him back to the land of the living. But now General Ross has some questions. Why are you here? Why walk into the Pentagon, a place that didn't even exist when you were last roaming the planet? We're in a whole new world, and the war that you were fighting, that war is long over. So why come here? For Steve, it's really a matter of losing everything. Bucky Barnes no longer in the world. His parents are dead. Any friend he once had, they're all gone. And so the only thing that mattered to him that still exists is the United States Army. The only thing to make sense of this world is to be right here with the people that serve. With General Ross welcoming him back to the United States Armed Forces, he's about to give him his first mission. This is what picks us up with David Colton in basic training, much like the life of Steve Rogers. For him, life had been a succession of bullies, always seeking out the weak. And David, he radiated weakness, getting pummeled on the daily. But for every hit he took, David would get back up on his feet. The kid having the heart of a lion, but he lacked the strength. He lacked the ability to truly be formidable. For David, the days, they were simply numbered. It wasn't a matter if they were going to get rid of him. It was a matter of when. This is what hops us over to Steve and Mr. Fantastic. Captain America's mission is Victor Von Doom. Steve is here getting some intel. He's trying to figure out who Doom is, what he represents. From what he's seen, Doom is an aristocrat madman, illegally entering America and threatening its citizens. That is after his coup in Latveria. He destroyed the US embassy there, took diplomats prisoner, and that is Steve's mission, rescuing those prisoners and getting them out safely. But Steve, he's not a dumb man. He knows the world has changed. It first changed with the atomic bomb, and now the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, they are the world's new atomic bombs. This is also one reason the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, they can't be associated with this in any way. This is all Black Ops stuff. No one really knows who Captain America is right now, so he can go under the cover of darkness. More than that, if they did find out who he was, there's kind of an exception, a clause for enhanced military. This is because no other country is willing to give up their super soldier programs. So if they use Captain America, if they find out they're using him, they're not going to see it as big of a deal versus the Fantastic Four that aren't enhanced military, they're just super powered individuals. But Cap really has to ask the question, who is it I'm going up against? 2 weeks ago, I was fighting Adolf Hitler. Now I'm in a brand new world, and I'm wondering, is this fate? Am I here to stop yet another Hitler before he begins to rise? But Reed tells him that Victor, he is no Hitler. He is full of ego, full of hate. But that hate isn't for a group of people, it's for himself. for the mother and father that he couldn't save. It's about control. It's about punishment for anybody that gets in his way. He's a man that disappeared into his armor, into the mask. Cap needs to know, how do I stop him? And Reed believes that his ego, that is his undoing. The armor, the mask, this all boosts his ego up. And while Reed's been working on a way to shut down his armor, he hasn't had a way to test it out yet. And as the two are about to part ways, Reed tells him that I know you've only been back for a few weeks, but he tells him that my father, he worshipped you. When Reed was a kid, his dad, he loved Captain America. And so growing up, so did Reed, pulling out an action figure from his pocket. Reed says that he's had this since he was 8 years old. And while you would love for me to call you Steve, in my mind, you're Captain America. You're a living legend. For myself and so many other people growing up, you are the counter to the stories of the boogeyman. You're the brave man. You're the man that helps, who fights evil. Captain America looking at the action figure, thinking to himself, and then thinking out loud, asking Reed, did they make some of Bucky? And while Steve, he calls them dolls, Reed tells them that they're called action figures. And you're damn right they did. Picking up with David in boot camp. David is up late, reading Captain America comics. He is caught. His drill sergeant, he drags him outside. He throws him into the mud. And he tells David that your fellow recruits, they're all right. You're gonna get somebody killed. You're a weak crybaby. You'll be useless on the battlefield. But David, he stands up. He gets to his feet. And he tells his drill sergeant he's not leaving. He says that he will never leave. Taking beating after beating, David continuing to have the fortitude to find his way to his feet, to never give up. This is where we find David in medical, recovering from all of his injuries. After seeing who he is, he's presented with a proposition. You're a kid that was beat down, but your spirit, it never wavered. Even when your body was telling you no, you never stayed down. It's simply not in you. And so he is offering David Colton, the weakest damn recruit he has ever witnessed, a way to be more. This is what picks us up with Captain America. General Ross calling him in a little bit early. It appears that their spies in Latveria have gone dark. So either they're on the run or they've been taken out. We see Captain America sporting a really nice outfit, really nice uniform that is going to be used for stealth. But as he is introduced to the rest of the team, he's introduced to Chill. He's introduced to Julie Slate. These guys are referred to as SEAL Team X, the Howling Commandos. And when Captain America calls Julie a soldier, she gets offended because she's a Marine. And if there's one thing that you know about Marines, you never call them a soldier. They have a title, and that title is Marine. But Captain America wondering if this is just gonna be a 3-person team. It's not. This is where we have the arrival of David Colton, a shield on his back. He took up that offer to become something more. He went to answer the question in the world, can I stop the bullets? Can Captain America make the world a better place? This is where we are shown a glimpse of the past. The statue of Saddam Hussein being ripped down. And David Colton, aka Captain America, is there to watch it fall. That is where this issue will end. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Alright, we're gonna start off by acknowledging that this is in fact part of the 616 universe. I don't necessarily know how I feel about that, but I have a feeling that if that is the case, David Colton probably is going to die. I hate to say that, but I think that's the inevitable approach, unless they just do away with him and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, this Captain America existed, but actually he ended up only doing a couple missions and then doing something else. Or he's such a top secret operative, no one's actually ever heard of him. They got a couple of different paths that they can take to justify his existence and nobody ever hearing about him. But this comic hit me a lot harder than I thought it was going to. You know, I really thought I was just gonna read another average Captain America comic, but with his opening scenes, the opening scenes being the two towers. You know, I'm 35 years old. I was 11 years old when the towers fell. That's a day marked in all of our brains. The day America stood still, and what followed was a need to fight. fight, a desire to stop it from ever happening again. People from all ways of life all over America, they joined up, my father being one of them. My father was one of the first to push in 2003 to 2004. And when the day came, at 17 years old, I went into the Army recruiter. I told them that I wanted to be infantry, and they let me sign up. A month later, I was shipped off to basic. A year after that, I found myself in Iraq in 2008. But after time, the fight becomes less about wanting to stop something and more about simply trying to survive. The truth of it is, we fought for the men next to us. We fought to make sure that they got home. And when those wars came to an end, when Iraqi control was handed over to corruption, when Afghanistan was hugely fumbled on its evacuation, many veterans, myself included, were left wondering, did all of my friends die in vain? What was the purpose of this decades-long war? Why have so many of our sons and daughters been given to the slaughter for nothing to change? And I think that's the kind of pain that the second lieutenant was talking about in this comic. The man was completely broken. He had given up on life. He had given up on hope. He had given up on anybody doing any real change. And this turned him into an extremist. You know, we love to glamorize our victories, but rarely do we like to remember the scars that it leaves. After World War II, hospitals were overflowing with PTSD patients. So much so that the hospitals, the VA hospitals, they didn't have enough beds. Soldiers came back so mentally broken, they didn't know what to do with them. And this has never changed. The truth is, there is nothing great about war. Nothing fantastic about it. There's nothing to glamorize or romanticize. It is the ugliest thing we do, and thus introduces our modern-day Captain America, an Iraq veteran. After seeing those towers fall, he wanted to do everything he could to stop the bullets from flying, to save the world, to save people. He followed in the footsteps of the one Steve Rogers. Now he gets to work side by side with one of the most iconic heroes in all of history. Does David live up to the legend? Let me know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your theories. If you want to get caught up on everything going on with this series, go ahead, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It is going to get you completely caught up on everything going on with this series, with anything going on Captain America. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by joining the channel membership, much like Patreon, having multiple different tiers, from $1 to $50, from loyalty badges to comics every single month. Not only are you helping out the channel tremendously, you are getting tons of perks in the process. Now, if you're unable to do this, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and with that being said, until the next breakdown.